All right, folks, welcome back. Game number 1. But before we get into it, we have a couple of messages. Number 1 goes to the new sub hype coming from Dive for Deathlock 666. Thank you so much for subscribing, as well as Katla13, K4Tla13, however you want that pronounced. Thank you so much for the 3-month resub as well. Great ways to kick off the cast. But this is the Matcherino Cup. We'll get a little bit more into what Matcherino is as the day goes on, but we got some shenanigans afoot. So, in the top left side of Prey on Terraces, we've got the Blue Terran, a Base Trade TV subscriber, no less. It is Healer.
In the bottom right, as the orange Protoss, he's Tails.
All right, so we actually were, it's very recently been wondering, like, where has Healer been? Where have all the good Terran gone? And all that jazz. Now, this isn't super promising start seeing a proxy, as I do feel like versus Protoss, this is not a particularly amazingly strong build. Like, you do 3-Rex proxy versus Terran, that's a whole nother can of worms. But versus Protoss, just one? See how it does.
You know, it's also like, this is not really all in, obviously, and it is going to get at least a couple of probe kills, but it does come really early.
Yeah, well, you know what, actually, I think this back a bit, too, what I was just saying, because I didn't realize, like, I don't know why my brain didn't process this. This was Nexus very quickly. So the Cyber Core is delayed, which most importantly means the Mothership Core will be delayed. And this Reaper is probably going to get a couple of probe kills, probably going to deny a bit of mining as he's running around chasing it. Like, this is not going to be the craziest amount of damage, and as you said, it's not really like all-in, so it's not, let's see what it gets done.
I should get, maybe, I'm going to guess 5 kills. I'm going to crank out a Stalker, actually, which still won't be able to catch up with all of the Reapers that are going to be coming out, so this is going to do quite a bit of damage. Already 2, I should get that 3rd one.
I really like the target fire instead of just, like, the aim move around, like, he's actually targeting the probes. So many times, like, to see other players do this, or you've done it yourself a million times, for sure, like, if you're a Terran player, where, like, you keep moving around, you don't quite hit the target you want to, so for Healer's sake, 6 probes to begin with is really, really good. That's not even, like, under not bad. That's pretty good for what this was.
For a Nexus first and a proxy, it's certainly what I would have expected. Anything less than 5, and it just would have been like, what did you do wrong? And certainly we've seen the Reaper proxies go wrong, like actually sending your first Reaper in and then get fully surrounded.
Yeah.
Pro gamers have made pretty bad mistakes, especially like if they're tired or whatever, because we do see, obviously, the Koreans coming in here. Healer not being one of them. But he, you know, expanded behind this. He is getting a factory now, which is to be expected. So, of course, his barracks isn't reducing, which is, like, only a little bit scary, but his second barracks is.
I wonder if this is something he did strictly because of the map. Like, you know, with gold base, it's, like, super enticing to play that greed early, like a faster command center, faster Nexus, whatever the case may be. Or if this was just luck of the draw. Because for Healer, we know he's a pretty smart cookie when it comes to Prey on Terraces. This is the map you want our hearts, my heart with at least, with the, like, gold base, triple port Banshee shit. Like, he's definitely been one to try and take advantage of, I think, the mentality of this map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a really nice proxy map, though. Like, if you're gonna do a non-committal proxy, this would be the map to do the Reaper one. I guess there's also, like, the Widow Mine one, but I don't think no one ever does that anymore. The Stargate coming now is interesting just because it's also going to be with a Cyclone for Healer, which is something we don't see as much anymore. It's actually like a very safe build. Like, if you want to do the safest thing possible, it's probably it, but it's almost like it's no longer necessary.
You know, the Stargate element has changed up the game quite a bit. We're seeing the Stargate more in every matchup, not just PvZ, but the Cyclone itself, to me, really seems best suited for if there's any sort of Warp Prism play. Beyond that, it's not a terrible unit, but I don't think the investment in 2 is worth it. Even if it is going to be like Oracles or Phoenix or whatever the case may be.
Well, so I was like, you know, talking about it more in like the case we usually see, or we did see Cyclones in that defensive structure, and it worked really well against most of what Protoss had to throw at you. But there are a couple of people who use it offensively, and with these combat shields coming out before Stim, he's either really, really afraid of an attack, which I don't think he should be because he's got some pretty good scouting, or he's going to actually push with this. So it's 3 minutes at a time, which doesn't sound like a lot, but mind you, they've been producing for quite a long time. And 2 Cyclones can really pack that punch, taking us a pylon very quickly. There's only 1 pylon on the front, for instance, right now for Tails.
So I would, I don't know, not without Magpilled Accelerator. Actually takes a, I mean, it's good damage. I'm not going to contest that. I just don't think it'll go down super quick. I just personally, in this situation, I like when we see the players using Widow Mines. I just feel like if you're gonna go for that anti-Oracle thing, obviously the Widow Mine's gonna one-shot it. But I also feel like it transfers over to the mid game better. The Cyclones really just feel like they get put on the front. Like, they're too fast. They get on the front line with a bio. They sit there, they eat the damage for like one shot and then die. Like, we never actually see them do super sick kiting or like have that Stalker wish it was never born type thing. Like, I don't know. Except for Reality. Reality's like the only exception to ever making a Cyclone look sexy.
Yeah, sure. I like it's. I've seen other cheesier people, I suppose, make Cyclones actually look pretty good. But you're right; it is about like microing them and not just letting them go into the front lines. Now, unfortunately, I think what Healer really wanted was to catch at least one, maybe even two Stalkers or Adepts or what have you out on the field. And unfortunately, there's none of that. Tails actually just kept all of his Stalkers back. And as long as all of his Stalkers are on the high ground, I don't think the Cyclones are going to really be able to do very much unless he scans beforehand or Tails just moves down and protects his third base.
The Cyclone, as well to note for people, it's got a bit of a siege tank dynamic where it can shoot further than it can see, which can be a bit of a problem in some of these situations. As we see, just again on the front lines, immediately dead. They got like one shot off.
Yeah. I can definitely, like, as I said, like, if he had scanned first or sent a Marine in first, like, the power of the Cyclone isn't that micro capability. Like, you get almost free units if you're perfectly microed. The Marines still don't do a bad job, but this is a very dedicated attack. It pushed off his stim a little bit, it pushed off his starport a little bit, and, you know, the Cyclones, they were a little costly, and they just went down without doing anything.
The trade-off here being that at least the army didn't give itself away for free. I don't know how to phrase that better. Like, there's so many times where you'll see the counterattack of like 50 army supplied to 12, and you're just like, okay, well, that was not worth it. He made a third Cyclone, by the way. Okay. But anyways, his defense here should be fine. With the bunker, with the Cyclone, with the amount of units he actually has playing, really, Tails wasn't going to break through this. Maybe just hoping to catch somebody off guard. Quick shout out, by the way, to He Hate Me, just reset for 3 months. I don't know why I didn't get a notification about that, but okay, I see it in chat, so we'll call it out. Hi.
Well, Healer is in not a terrible position, but he should start dropping at the very least. Now, the upgrades for Tails also started later, so they're actually going to be pretty even unless he gets that Chrono Boost into it. But the time at which, you know, Terrans can really start pressuring in the mid-game is now, basically. Like, Healer breaking on the rocks, hates rocks, scans for the Observer, just to push out, actually in the middle of the map.
Actually, that is a curious point. We haven't actually had observers over scouting. He actually put a lot of observers out, but he put them all on his side of the map looking for drops, not exactly sitting over an army. That is, what, 6 observers? Actually, 7 observers. That is like, we're hitting pig baby levels of observers.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy amounts. But, you know, there was, oddly enough, despite what is a unusual earlier push, there wasn't actually a lot of pressure. So I guess he felt very comfortable building nothing but observers from his robo, as well as, you know, sending them out, you know, one by one, as opposed to keeping any in his army in case Widow Mines came. So, I mean, now it shouldn't be a problem. But pushing out Tails, maybe, you know, a little dangerous, because you're going to push into potentially a concave.
But he won't. I believe the observer needs to see the load up. He's going to have 2 medevacs up here, but he's kind of misrallied or fakes. I'm not sure which.
There is still a sizable army, enough to make Tails think twice, because, you know, Stalkers don't want to go in first, and he's going to pull back.
He's rushing back home. He's trying to get these pylons down so he can overcharge them. This is a pretty big force coming out of Healer, though. Oh, please get those extra Marauders out. Thank God. Those are going to be pretty pivotal to knocking down buildings quickly enough that the overcharge will be not so consequential. As we see, the overcharge doesn't even reach. The Twilight Council goes down. Not a big deal, but that will stall out upgrades for the time being, something in which Tails is currently ahead. He's actually got 1-1 for this fight, and unfortunately, Healer's going to have 1-1 finish as all of his units just die. He's going to trade out as best he can before this, though, targeting down the Stalkers in hopes of trying to maybe pick up some units and escape. He will get a couple out alive.
Yeah, if he had boost, maybe he got both medevacs out alive. A little unfortunate there, especially with the 1-1 not having been done. This could have been timed out a little bit better as well, but it's still not bad if he stimmed in right now. Right now, because Tails is getting his army over there, okay?
Yeah, that actually, the difference of 1-1 that could have made in that fight was kind of huge, but besides that, for now, we got the Stalkers rushing over back this way, so we may see that liftoff go back towards the main. Nose is going to get caught by some more Stalkers that were segmented to the side by Tails. So Healer, unfortunately, for all of his fancy micro, has only been able to trade out for army and a Twilight Council at this point.
Yeah. So of course there's an observer over here where they're really, I mean, you could have thought those wood mines would have gotten a shot, but no, now it's been scouting for drops for some time. So a little annoying for a healer to be denied so much from both attacks. The one in the main just really didn't do a whole lot. That was something that could have gotten forges, it could have gotten a nexus.
But I mean, if you look at the resources lost, you look at what's currently on the field for both players, and you look at the numbers, it's not that terrible. Like, he has been trading out. So it's not for naught, but you're right. These drops have not been the goal of getting to the mineral lines or picking up expensive and important tech buildings. Like, the Twilight Council stalled out 2-2 for a little bit, but Healer wasn't able to take advantage of that. He didn't start his own 2-2, so he's still finding himself on a bit of an awkward clock.
Well, Tail is throwing down that Templar Archive. Should be adding in Storm or just Archon soon enough, but it's actually more worrying about the Liberators. He doesn't really have a super response. So Blinkstalkers could do fine initially. But Healer's got to be careful not to throw away his ground army, because he doesn't need that support for the Liberators. He's taken a 4th base with his main command centers. His economy is still doing fine. Tails, has been doing a great job on the defensive, is getting close to max, and is close to also getting that really nice army with Splash. He's just missing those upgrades, which did start, a little bit late after his 1-1. It's just Archons for now, no Storm, despite having the minerals and gas for it. It looks like he's actually wanting to take a fight. Ooh.
I mean, it's risky. The Widowmine gets a pretty decent hit. Those Adepts, as soon as they melt, the Stalkers are going to be like candy for the Marauders. There are a significant amount of Marauders here after all, so for Tails, this might not have been such a good choice.
That.
I mean, he doesn't have those upgrades yet. Archons are finally here, but those are not going to have anything really in front of them with the Adepts being gone. They can target it down immediately.
Very questionable. Like, his 2-2 wasn't anywhere near to being closed. His Archons were just morphed in, so why didn't you wait for those? Like, I'm not sure. Like, that was simply underestimating a bio army.
Did somebody offer him $60,000?
Wow. Yeah, okay, like someone's gonna offer that for this one. No, more likely he's like, so even though we see these guys, we see at least 3 to 4 Koreans participate in these European Cups. And this is actually even a little bit earlier for them. They still seem to make like really clumsy mistakes. Once again, taking on a mostly Marauder army is not going to work out for Blinkstalkers.
I mean, there is the argument of latency, but that was just a bad choice. That wasn't even like, oh, he totally mismicroed Blink.
Yeah, that was
unless he mismicroed the Adept cancel by 13 seconds.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't the case because he was moving in with the Stalkers. Like, it was very intentional, but it was something that, like, if you're sleep deprived or, like, just like fuzzy, you're gonna be like, oh, why did I even do that? But they shouldn't be. Like, they've been waking up for these European Cups for the last month, I think.
Right, exactly. He's on 2-2, which is gonna help him a little bit, but Marauders versus Stalkers just have such a water Pokemon versus fire Pokemon dynamic. It's just really hard to take that fight even with better upgrades.
Yeah. There's definitely one thing that Tails has been missing from his composition besides, like, the good choices, and that is Immortals. Like, he made all those observers so early on. It's not that he continued to make them. He just stopped using his Robo for quite a while, actually. They could have produced a Warp Prism to get some damage done. It could have been producing a lot of Immortals. And 3 or 4 Immortals in that attack that we just saw fail, like, that suddenly goes really well, because there's mostly Marauders left.
So, props to Healer, continue to expand. It's going to get stalled out here in a moment, but I was going to mention, I had just assumed, but we don't actually have Storm researched yet, so these are strictly Templar for Archons, which, in the present situation, is not too bad. But as we see, an extra starport's coming down, Fusion Core in order not to get battlecruisers, but for the Liberator range. I mean, once it gets to that point, I don't care if he's on 3-3 with like 40 Archons, Liberators are still going to win that fight.
Yeah. This isn't going to go so well with the Concave. The Immortals are living through this, and they're doing a lot of damage to the Marauder-heavy army.
It's like they're living now, asterisk. There's an observer here, so the Widowmines are being targeted down, so they don't get to just reload for fight 2. But they got some good hits off. They took away a lot of the Adept power. The Liberators are finally here. There's less than a handful of Stalkers remaining. I mean, bait them into the Liberators, Healer. Bait them into the Liberators, Healer.
Yeah, a little bit. There we go. So this might just be game for Tails. He's down 40 army supply.
I didn't realize how screwed his mining was, too. This is his only base mining. If this Nexus actually were to get targeted down, that would be it.
The momentum he had, with defending against the drops and expanding consistently, really just died with that first bad push. Without that first bad push, and he saves most of his army instead, that's faster 2-2 and thus faster 3-3. That's faster Storm, potentially. Maybe a transition to the Tempests.
But forget faster for a moment. I mean, it's the fact that you're going to have double the amount of units benefiting from those upgrades as well, right? Like, you just don't throw them away. But regardless, it's good to see a player like Healer take a good game on the home server here for it is Europe that we're playing on in the not Corsair, excuse me, the Mancherino Cup. This one Immortal finally gets targeted down. The guy goes shooting for days, but GG. Congratulations to Healer, who will take the series actually and move on to fight against Snoot of all people in a best of 3, which will be, I think, extra fun, depending on how Healer's playing today, because we've seen him do specifically Cheeky versus Zerg things.
Let's make Papa Rifkin proud.
Papa bless. All right, guys, we're going to go to the first ad break of the day. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 2 minutes, and when we return, it's going to be Liquid Snoot versus Healer. We'll see you guys soon.